the #1 farm and ranch insurer in the U.S., joins us tonight to share some of their impactful advocacy and safety programs. Discover how Nationwide is dedicated to protecting the safety of farmers, ranchers, and agribusinesses that feed, fuel, and clothe the world.
Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Kirbe Schnoor, and tonight experts from Nationwide, the #1 farm and ranch insurer in the U.S., join us as they highlight their advocacy and safety programs. From grain bin safety to ATV safety and beyond, they've got you covered. I want to welcome our guests for tonight's show. Krista Soda, Nationwide Agribusiness Senior Consultant, and Shonda Vega, Nationwide Sponsor Relations Account Executive. Thank you both for being here tonight. I've gotten to visit with you guys throughout some time, be on the road with you. But first, Krista, let's go into it and explain a little bit about yourself and your role with Nationwide.
You bet. Well, thanks for having us on here. Krista Soda, and I have been with Nationwide Agribusiness since 2006, where I get to lead a lot of our great external ag partnerships, so it's a lot of fun. I'm super passionate about building connections and within the ag industry, and that's really helped me a lot in my work that I do with our Women in Ag group, with our collegiate programs, and our summer internship program. So I grew up in a small town in Iowa and graduated with an English degree from the University of Iowa. Go Hawks! I have to throw that one out here to my Ohio State friend. And I spent 28 fantastic years in the suburbs of Des Moines before I made a recent leap a few years ago to Las Vegas. So I'm a proud dance mom to my daughter Alexa, and she just graduated from UNLV.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. And it's been great to share my passion for agriculture with her over the years, too. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the real person or the real thing that runs the family would be the 9-year-old fur baby named Romo. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, he does. So one of my favorite things to do is to travel to ag conferences and really talk to people about Nationwide's ag heritage, about the great careers that they could have in ag insurance, and then also to highlight and showcase a lot of our advocacy programs, which we're going to hit on tonight. So the other thing is I love speaking with the future leaders in our field. They're amazing. So super excited to be here tonight and talk more about it.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, Krista, we've got to be on the road together. I got to go to the Iowa State Fair with you, which was super fun to be back at your roots. I'll be in Vegas with you in a few short amount of days, you name it. But Shonda, it's so nice meeting you here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role and involvement with Nationwide.
Sure, Kirby. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having us. We've been very excited about this opportunity. So, like you said, I'm Shonda Vega. I'm a Sponsor Relations Account Executive at Nationwide. I've been there almost 10 years, and all managing relationships of different sorts at the company. But right now I manage our relationship with Ohio Farm Bureau. And interestingly enough, Ohio Farm Bureau founded Nationwide about 100 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And you'll hear more about that in the program today. But growing up, my family did not farm, but I grew up in a small rural community in central Ohio, and growing up what we called out in the country. You joined FFA. You helped your friends show their 4-H animals. You ran around in pastures and barns. So it's just really ingrained in me and my upbringing. And then we saw some pictures just on the screen a little bit ago. Come my senior year of high school, I was the president of our FFA chapter.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know, non-farm kid.
No easy feat
working
either.
your way up the FFA chapter. But fast forward to college, I went to Ohio University in Athens and studied journalism. It's where I met my husband, Jonathan, and we live with our son, Alex, in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. And obviously have to mention the fur baby as well. Our dog Gilbert. They keep us busy and on our toes probably more than the kiddos. And then also pictured several friends and I, we ran our local farm market for quite some time. So it was always good to give back to the ag community as an adult as well.
It's so interesting, right? The ag community is so much about, obviously, agriculture itself, but it's a people business, and you both have been in it for quite some time. Krista, I'm going to start off with you. Tell us a little bit about Nationwide's Grain Bin Safety Week and its purpose and why it's so important.
Absolutely. Something that people don't always think about is there's nearly 24 people per year who unfortunately do not make it out of a grain bin entrapment situation. And over the past 50 years, there have been over 900 reported cases of entrapments. Now, that's just the reported ones. We're guessing around 30% that aren't even reported. So unfortunately, the fatality rate is at 62%. And these statistics just really highlight the importance of something like Nationwide has done with our grain bin safety program to find ways to be safe when you're in and around grain bins. And so we established our grain bin safety advocacy program back in 2014, and it's to promote those safe practices when working around the grain bins. And each year we have a grain bin safety week in February. I think it's the third week of February every year. And it really just helps bring a national spotlight to the importance of safety around the grain bins, like its name says. Mm-hmm. It's also important that the rural fire departments have the rescue tubes and have the training. You can have the tubes but not the training, and it doesn't do a lot of good. And we know that a lot of those rural fire departments are volunteer-based. And so they don't necessarily have access to all of that. So we love that this program gives them that opportunity. And we have our Nominate Your Fire Department campaign contest, and that's really a key component of the program.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of those the firemen, I should say, are family and friends of the farmers in the community most of the time. What inspired Nationwide to start this program?
You bet. So it actually started with our past president, Gary Douglas. He was on the foundation board for an organization called Farm Safety for Just Kids. It was an organization out of Iowa that Marilyn Adams started. She unfortunately had lost her 11-year-old son in a grain bin accident. So Gary was on the board with that, and while her program and organization was really focused on children's safety in and around the farm, who do the children look up to? The adults. Yeah. So it kind of started from there that we need to really work on getting the adults to not go into the bins or to go in safely if they do. And so about 10 years ago, our current president, Brad Liggett, who himself was he was a farm kid out of Nebraska, he recognized the reach that Nationwide could have and how we could help make this a safer community for all of us.
Yeah, you Midwesterners, you're on to something out there. Let me tell you. Shonda, let me ask you, what resources or training does Nationwide do to prevent or help prevent these grain bin entrapments?
Yeah, sure. So we have many generous partners that help us with Grain Bin Safety Week and the training, but we really could not do it without our biggest and best partner, NECAS, which stands for National Education Center for Ag Safety. The director there out of Iowa, Dan Neenan, he and his team just do a fabulous job going around and presenting the fire departments with these grain bin safety tubes and specifically the training, which Krista mentioned is key. But we thought we would tee up a little video just to show what a grain entrapment looked like so that the viewers are familiar.
Yeah, let's see it.
Okay.
So what is a grain entrapment, and how do they even happen in the first place? Grain can be deceiving. When stored in a structure, grain can often go out of condition and form a crust-like layer. If a person enters the bin and try to break up that crust from the inside, the grain could collapse and trap them, creating an emergency situation.
Well, we just saw that video right there. Krista, kind of talk us through what takes place during the demonstration and of an entrapment and a rescue.
Absolutely. So the number one thing, we make sure that our victim that is going through this has a safety harness. Very important. And make sure all of our volunteers are also safely tethered to the rescue demonstration. And then they have their hard hats, safety glasses, gloves, etc. Very important, we only bury the victim to the knees, and there's no reason to go as high as the chest. When you get to the chest, you can have a lot of breathing issues from the grain dust, etc. And so just to the knees, you can't move, and I think you can relate to this. We'll get to that in a minute.
I can.
Yeah. So all through this, carefully building the rescue tube around the victim. So the goal is to get the tube acts like a cofferdam, and to make the grain quit flowing toward the victim. And then obviously need to get the grain out of there. We utilize an auger which has some special instructions, which we'll see here in a minute. But during the demo, what's great is Dan is able to interact with the audience and interact with the victim, and then give them lots of feedback on what's going on, what not to do, how to do it appropriately. And that just helps the fire departments then know when they're in that situation what they do. So as we've talked about a little bit, you experienced this not only once, but twice. We made you the victim twice. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's a great educational moment, not only for me as a farm kid, but for so many that were out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if we want to kind of roll the video on that, we can see how you kept calm, which is so important during it as well, but see what actually takes place during these demonstrations. And it's a pretty cool situation.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know what? For your own viewing pleasure, you can see the video of what happened when I actually went through this process. Let's take a look. Yeah, I can't move at all.
So all that pressure from the grain, where is that going? On to Kirby, right? We don't want that to happen. So our two rescuers, as they get in, are going to take and put a couple soda flats down, and they're going to stand on that.
I can't even move forward. I can move my body like this, but that's it. Even if I try to pick up my foot, it'll sink me lower. And what are these
two? The rescuers are ready to get in, so they're going to go ahead and get in. And then Jody is going to start handing the panels to them.
Hey, friends.
Hey, you feel the pressure?
Oh, yeah. I'm squeezing my leg. Can't go anywhere. Like, even when you put those in, it hurts the pressure.
You feel it, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, it's debilitating. Like, it takes away your feeling from, like, your waist. Yeah.
That grain could slide and over the top my victim.
And I could see how, if you don't remain calm, which how can you remain calm in this situation? But like the panic, like the breathing, all of it, it would really make a difference. If I started to freak out, which I might. Very cold down in this one.
You all right?
Hi, yep, doing good.
Then I'm going to sink that down and evacuate the grain till I come loose. Most people will become entrapped in the grain when the grain gets just above their knees.
Yeah, let's do this one.
So they're going to build the tube around, then they're going to sink it down with their hands, then they're going to stand on the tube.
Yep,
okay?
doing good.
We'll put this auger in there.
Okay.
It's all protected here. But the biggest thing is don't worry about the grain behind you, but beside you, and continue to push it over top of that.
Alrighty, so we've got the tube built around, they've got the auger in, so he's going to power that up. Now, we've got to use, go ahead, a cordless, brushless drill. Because remember, inside that bin, we've got grain dust, which is explosive, okay? And a regular cordless drill sparks when you start it, and it sparks when you stop it. Do we want the sparks inside that bin? No, so it's got to be a cordless, brushless drill. So in the 10 minutes it's going to take us to rescue her out of there, the pressure from the grain is going to put pock marks in her legs, and it's going to take her body a full hour to push those pock marks back out. So I can talk to you all day about the pressure of the grain, but you're going to be able to see exactly what that does. They are to the point where it's down to her knees, so they're going to put that pole across.
You can put your hands up here.
Okay.
Brace yourself and take little baby steps and see if you can inch your way back out.
I feel like a little more stuck this time.
Yeah. Okay. Put your hands up here and just little baby steps. You okay?
Oh gosh, yep.
Right.
I did it. Well, you could see right there. I mean, set the drama aside. That really was, I knew I was going to be saved. I know it was a demonstration, but it was interesting listening to the crowd's response. I think they were kind of like, even though, like I said, I knew I was going to be okay. I was in safe hands. It was great instruction, everything. But it is a very, very scary moment. And you feel debilitated. Over time, you guys have been able to donate several tubes. Speak to that a little bit more. How many, and has there been any lives saved from donating these tubes?
Yeah, so I mentioned some earlier statistics, but I'm going to go to my notes here just because there's a lot of numbers, but they're so important. Get a little more granular here. So between 2007 and 2023, there have been 573 documented entrapments. Wow. And 49% of confined space accidents in 2023 were grain entrapments. There are other types of confined spaces incidents, but 49% were the grain entrapments. Takes 4 seconds. That's all it takes is 4 seconds for an adult to be knee deep. And you talked about that. When you were knee deep, you said it felt like you were in cement. You could not move.
You couldn't, yeah.
Yeah, and so then it's actually 20 seconds before an adult can be completely entrapped. So unfortunately, once you hit that 20 seconds, if they're completely entrapped, there's very little chance of survival. And the average age, which is interesting to me, is the average age of a grain entrapment victim is 56 years old. So we know that 100% of grain entrapments they can be preventable with zero entry, but we also know that that's not always the way it's going to work. So this is Nationwide's 11th year running the safety program. And as of this year, which is pretty cool, we have 10 states that actually have a proclamation that they recognize that third week of February as Grain Bin Safety Week. So we love that states are getting on board with us on that. And we have raised $1.7 million in 10 years and to get the rescue tubes and training. And fortunately, that means we have supplied almost 400 grain rescue tubes and training to fire departments across 32 states. So very excited about that. What we do know as well is that we have had at least 13 successful rescues with our tubes, and 6 of those have been this year. Wow. So that's amazing. We know there are others out there as well, but that's nice to know that we have helped save some lives out there, and that's what's really important to us.
Yeah, and for the viewers at home, the numbers might seem interesting, confusing, maybe a little, but it's really interesting in these rural communities. Farmers and ranchers don't always ask for help, and they, want to make it back to the dinner table, and they don't always get to because they're just trying to get things done on the farm. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons I know that we took away from that demonstration is a young lady wanted to showcase this and demonstrate it because she just wanted to make sure her dad, her uncles, her brothers, anybody would make it back home to dinner time because, again, there's work to be done. Right. And so I just thought that was really important that you guys showcase that. And it's important for these rural communities and these families who are feeding the world. Shonda, I want to go into you a little bit. How can people get involved or participate in grain bin safety?
Yeah, sure. Well, like Krista said, we've raised $1.7 million to be able to implement these trainings and donate the rescue tubes to the fire department. So first and foremost, we need sponsors. We need donors. We need money to help support this campaign. Just an example, the partner I work with at Nationwide, Ohio Farm Bureau, each year they allocate funds. And for this tube and the training to be allocated to a fire department in Ohio. So people can, donate to make sure it stays within their community or within their state, or they can just donate to our general fund, and then as the nominations come in, it could be chosen to where it goes to. So first and foremost, just really important for us to have sponsors, and then we also love to include our sponsors in the delivery and in the training. So last month, when that Ohio Fire Department got their the rescue tube and training, some members from the Ohio Farm Bureau were there, and they could bring refreshments and hang out with the department and really just be part of that day as a sponsor and a partner.
Yeah, sponsorship becomes partnership,
yes,
right? And that's
absolutely.
so important. Krista, what other safety measures do you have around grain bins or confined spaces that you guys offer?
Absolutely. So we, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, zero entry mentality is what we want. Again, not reality always, but we want to know that if people do enter the grain bin, that they can do it safely. So we have a website, thinkgrainbinsafety.com, and there are so many resources out there, articles and different things, tools that people can utilize. And then another one that's really, I don't want to say popular, but unfortunately is out there, is manure pit safety. And we have so many associates also who also actively farm, which is a pretty cool thing. And we were able to do some of the filming for those videos at one of our associates' manure pits. So that's great that we can include our associates, like Shonda was mentioning earlier as well. And then the other one is our bin strong. So in 2020, we had this little thing called a derecho, which none of us had heard about at the time, that came through the Midwest. And unfortunately, a lot of the bins were fairly empty because it was getting ready for harvest time. We lost a lot of grain bins. So this one was really focused on if you do need to build grain bins or you're starting off and you need to build some, how you can build them stronger and make them more viable in those really crazy winds that we get sometimes now. And that not only helps from an insurance perspective, but it also helps in terms of your product and not losing that product. And we did a fun partnership where we have some resources around that on the thinkgrainbinsafety.com as well. And I think we're going to show a quick little animation video here on that.
Okay, well, let's see it.
In August 2020, the Midwest Derecho wind event caused $7.5 billion in damage. Grain bins were particularly hit hard, as were those farmers who lost their grain storage. Bins capable of withstanding higher wind events are available that now more than ever offer compelling financial reasons to be installed. Since most grain bin damage is caused by wind from ordinary thunderstorms, the question is not if a wind event will happen again, but when.
So much great information we're covering here tonight on Rural America Live. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we will be covering all things ATV and UTV safety as we champion rider safety with our friends from Nationwide. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. I'm Kirbe Schnoor, host of FarmHER, partnering with Nationwide to talk about grain bin safety.
Our mission is 0 lives lost, and I recently did a demonstration that showed me just how crucial it is to stay safe. Remember to aim for 0 entry, post warning signs, and restrict access. If you must enter, never be alone, turn off equipment, use protective gear, and wear a harness. Nationwide also helps distribute rescue tubes and training. Visit thinkgrainbinsafety.com to learn more.
At Grainger, we know the ones who get it done wear a lot of hats. A hard hat is one, problem solver is another. Whatever the job calls for, we're here for you. We're America's trusted source for industrial-grade products, with the scale and resources to deliver and the knowledge to help answer tough product questions. Because we know that hats change, but having access to real people ready to help, combined with fast delivery, never goes out of style. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Since 2019, John Deere has invested more than $2 billion in our American factories. Today, we're nearly 30,000 U.S. employees strong in more than 60 U.S.-based facilities across 16 states. We couldn't be more proud to play our part in supporting Americans who work the land and build a better tomorrow. Nothing runs like a Deere.
For me, it's the tranquility. There's something very special, I'm gonna joke up, about this ranch.
3 incredible women raising 2 happy families working together at one beautiful Arizona ranch. This is a great team of ranch women. Kathy owns and takes care of the place. Danny teaches homeschool and runs the business. Penny cares for the horses and keeps up the daily routine. Watch a new episode of Rancher, Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on RFD-TV.
Welcome back to Rural America Live. Tonight, we're discussing all things advocacy and safety with our friends from Nationwide. Earlier, we took a look at grain bin safety, but let's move forward and on now to take a look at ATV and UTV safety, including the importance of those helmets. Okay, ladies, the number one thing of ATV, UTV accidents are on the rise. Give us some background on this and just a little bit of why this campaign and everything is so important for ATV and UTV safety, Shonda.
Yeah, so according to the U.S. Product Safety Commission, there are over 700 deaths related to ATV, UTV accidents in the U.S. every year. So when I say ATV, all-terrain vehicle, and then UTV being a utility task vehicle. But even more concerning is that there's 100,000 injuries treated each year and in the emergency room for these accidents. And those are the ones that are being reported, and, making it to the hospital room. So, that was obviously alarming. And then when you look at research from Nationwide Children's Hospital, about 10% of those involve minors. So about 11,000 injuries for our youth each year in these accidents. So Nationwide Agribusiness, we just had to take a look and say, hey, is there something that we can really, bring to the rural community to elevate not only what we're finding and seeing, but offer some safety tips and precautions through a campaign which we launched. Is called Let's Champion Rider Safety. We do have a video that we're going to toss to two young ladies who we use throughout the campaign, and we hope will be influencers for some of the youth watching.
All right, let's take a look at it.
Let's talk about ATV safety. Stay off the road except if you need to cross safely. That's right, ATVs are meant to be off-road. Dirt's more fun anyway. Be a champion for rider safety.
Well, they were great, but
I
talk a little bit about why you guys decided to get involved with ATV and UTV safety.
Well, as an organization and a risk management company, we were seeing the claims come in.
Yeah.
So we were seeing an increase in the accident claims and death claims, unfortunately. And there was a large percentage of those involving minors, and a lot of them were preventable, just like the grain bin, safety accidents. So, we were caring about our policyholders and what was going on in the rural communities, and that's why we decided to launch this. And, we had that video kind of aimed towards the youth, but our whole catalog of videos for this campaign can be found. Chris is going to go over our website here in a little bit, but I'd like to go through maybe one that gives a little more of a parent's perspective. If we want to toss to that.
Yeah, let's toss to that, because I think that's really important. Let's see that video.
Growing up, we had horses and all sorts of, outdoor activities. We just enjoy being outdoors and on our family farm, so.
It was about 2020. We got the ATV just for like a fun riding toy.
We purchased our UTV during COVID so that our children could have something to do outside, get out, enjoy the farm life. But we also expressed how important it is to be safe around them.
Well, I was with my boyfriend and we were just riding around, having fun. And when we went behind our garage, we hit a big bump and it all of a sudden rolled over on my side. I was holding on to the safety bar, doing everything I could, and the safety bar actually came out and split my hand and arm in half, so.
By the time I had driven from one store to the next, my phone rang and it was the fire department. I knew instantly that something had happened, Luckily, I was only about 20 minutes away, so by the time I got there, they were loading her into the ambulance. And it was scary. They took her into surgery, knew it was going to be a quite long surgery, but it ended up being 6 hours. It caused damage to her artery. They had to do an artery bypass. So they took a vein from her leg and put it in her arm. She essentially damaged nerves. Your main nerve that controls your hand was damaged. The next day, she couldn't feel her fingers. Here I thought, oh, it's just swelling, it's normal. But what we didn't know was she had developed compartment syndrome. She also developed a blood clot on top of the injury. It just seemed like there was always an issue, and every day there was a surgery. She had multiple doctors coming, telling her she's lucky she kept her arm. And I think we're all very grateful for that, obviously.
What I've learned is that to listen to your parents and to definitely know your limits. I mean, you may think that you can go fast and you're safe and that it's a safe vehicle, but in the end game, it's not. I mean, it's definitely accidents can happen.
You want your child to experience life, but you also want to be able to prepare them to be safe in situations. So it's that balance of how do I express my mom concern, but also let her live her life.
Yeah, that's a difficult one to watch, and we're just so thankful for people that wanted to share their stories. And this was a relatively new video, so you can see the young lady still recovering, and we wish her a full healing.
Yeah, most definitely. I know earlier when we were speaking, it doesn't matter if you're in rural communities or even in the city, suburban. They mentioned they got their ATV when they were during COVID, right? Something to do. It can happen anywhere and to anyone. Krista, I think you mentioned that earlier, like you guys in your cul-de-sac, you're right? People are riding them. So everywhere. What resources is Nationwide providing to help spread the message of the safety measurements that should be taken?
I'm going to let one of our Nationwide friends kind of kick us off on that, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it.
Okay.
Hey, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I'm here today on behalf of Nationwide to talk about something near and dear to my heart, off-road vehicles like ATVs and UTVs. Now, I know we all love to get out there and ride through the mud and the dirt, but the truth is we need to be more mindful of our own safety and the safety of others. In recent years, there's been a huge increase of off-road vehicle usage, which unfortunately means there's also been a rise in accidents. Whether you're a new user or a seasoned rider, we can turn this trend around by continuing to focus on safety. For starters, I recommend that you check out the safety resources and training courses available on Nationwide's website at nationwide.com/ATV safety. Let's all do our part to make sure we're staying safe out there. And thanks for riding with me.
Yeah, so as Dale mentioned, we have a safety site out there. And honestly, it has e-training courses, there are articles, there are videos, all kinds of resources for people. Anyone can get out to that. For our agents, there's toolkits. And then we've got a lot of social stuff. And obviously, you've been helping with our FarmHER partnership. You've been helping with some of those. And we have some social cards out there and videos just to remind everyone what those safety tips are.
Yeah, and they're so needed and warranted, right? Like I said, he said it the best, right? ATV, UTV, safety is needed because so many people are purchasing them.
Right.
Shonda, so what are the guidelines for safely operating an ATV or UTV on a farm?
Well, I'm going to go into those in just a moment. We did adopt some tips from the ATV Safety Institute.
Okay.
But before I dive in, like Krista mentioned, you did a great social media piece for us on this.
Show it.
Yeah, so let's take a look at this, and then I'll detail it out a little bit more.
Okay, let's see it. I'm Kirbe Schnoor from FarmHER, and we're teaming up with Nationwide to promote ATV and UTV safety. Always wear a helmet and protective gear. Obey passenger and age limits. Avoid paved roads and never drive under the influence. Use common sense and match the job with the right vehicle. As women in agriculture, we set the example. So talk to your families about responsible riding. Let's champion ATV safety together. Go to nationwide.com/ATV safety to learn more.
Oh, you looked good on that.
Thanks.
You know, babe.
Again, I grew up riding them. We had friends that would come out, friends that lived in the city. There has been accidents on our farm, and it actually is very scary. It doesn't matter if your friends are not, family friends or not, things can happen, and it is very scary for everyone. So again, go into that because you guys championing this and educating people is the main thing here.
Yeah, you did a great job laying it out. I'll just go into a little bit more detail. So first and foremost, we got to protect that head of ours. So helmets are key, but you definitely want to look for a helmet that has DOT, Department of Transportation certification on it. So it should have a sticker on it. That's key when you're selecting a helmet, one that fits you for your size. Try to find one with a full face shield. Okay. And if you can't find one, wear goggles. Dust and debris. If you get that in your eyes while you're riding, it can really impair, as you're driving along. Everyone probably loves to hop on there with some flip-flops and shorts and tank top in the summer. But if you can wear long sleeve shirts, long pants, gloves, boots over the ankles, that all gives you more stability control, especially with the grip. And then, if you hit some limbs, if you fall off, that clothing, the boots, the gloves, they're all going to protect your skin and your body a little bit more in that accident. So protective gear 101. Moving on, and you mentioned this, avoid paved roads. So specifically ATV tires aren't necessarily made for paved roads. It's all-terrain vehicles. And so it can lead to some slipping, sliding, tipping if you're riding on paved roads, especially at fast speeds. And unfortunately, we see with claims, and we had one not too long ago where you could get a collision. A truck might not see you. A big truck might not see a small ATV riding down the road. So, really avoid the paved roads, kind of ride in designated areas off-road. You also mentioned don't ride under the influence of drugs or alcohol. We also know that can impair judgment and response time.
Yeah,
absolutely. Something that we were seeing with claims, with youth especially, claims were coming in, injuries were happening when people were either exceeding the weight limit on the ATV, UTV, or the number of passengers. Because a lot of weight makes it difficult to steer, and it also leads to tipping. So you need to look at your manufacturer label and really follow those guidelines for size and weight requirements. So I have a few more here. I know this is a long list, but
no, we need to hear
so
them all.
much good stuff to hit. And also look at the manufacturer's label for designated age and size. These can be heavy, hard to steer. You don't want maybe, an 8-year-old getting on the most, robust vehicle and not being able to handle it, especially, if they're going in through some bumpy areas, things like that. So, and Kristen mentioned a great resource. We have online training, just like you wouldn't get behind a car, truck wheel without taking some kind of training course and knowing how to operate it. Or people coming onto your farm or onto your operation, onto your land, nieces, nephews, people that might not be used to these all the time. Just take the time to take them through the safety precautions. It really can make a difference. It can save lives and prevent injuries.
Yeah, and accidents, they happen. Right. They happen all the time, and they happen
so
easily.
No one thinks it's going to happen to them.
Exactly. And it does. And it's, it just taking these measures can save you in the long run and save lives. And I think that's another thing too, Krista. Let's go into it. And how do you reach the people? How do you tell the parents, the kids, the farm owners who need to understand the importance of these safety measures and just like these messages about taking these measures to be safe?
One of the things we found, you mentioned it earlier, so I live in Las Vegas and I live in a cul-de-sac of 20 homes and we have 2 razors right on there. My dad was out recently visiting and one of my friends offered to take him on a ride and I was so excited for my dad, but then they showed up and didn't have a helmet for him. I'm like, Dad, this is exactly what we're talking about. And they crossed a 4-lane highway. Yeah, wow. They were on some paved roads and everything, so probably everything we shouldn't have been doing. That's why I love that Nationwide has this, because my dad was a guest on one of these. And so it's very important, as Shonda said, that everyone knows the training for behind them. But getting to those kids, how do you get to them? And I give big props to a few of our colleagues and friends, Sarah Onnen and Aaron Cummings and Brad Snyder. They got an idea to take the show on the road. So let's go to the schools. Let's make it an all-day event at these schools. Did 3 different ones, 3 different days around the Des Moines area. And let's teach them. Let's have some fun stations for them to do. Let's bring in some celebrities for them. And hopefully what happens there is we make an impact enough that if they're out on their own farm or they're at a friend's farm, they're a city kid who's at a friend's farm, they're in the city on one, that they think about it. And they think back to that day that, hey, Nationwide came out there and they told me I need to make sure I do A, B, and C. And they do all of those things. And then that is a win-win for all of us.
Yeah, being safe for themselves, being safe for others, saving lives, their lives, and the people they care about. I think it's just so important. How do you guys make sure, Shonda, that people are covered ATV, UTV, insurance-wise when all of this happens? Like I said, we have a farm. We've had accidents out there. It's a scary thing for farm owners, and you don't want that for yourself, and you don't want it for the other people that it happens to. Yeah. So what's your guys' role in this, and how do you cover the individuals?
It's really interesting because a lot of people think they're covered and they're not. But you have to let your insurance agent know who's riding these, where they're riding them, how they're being used on your land, so that they're appropriately covered, liability-wise, especially. So what our recommendation for is Nationwide, obviously talk to your agent. If you don't have an agent that understands power sports or how they're used on your, in your organization, we would love for you to visit farmagentfinder.com. That's where you find a farm certified agent. And again, someone that's very versed in how to kind of schedule these different items, especially you want to let them know the make and model, and then how it's being used on your farm.
I think something interesting before we go to break real quick is you guys have mentioned a lot of your agents too have, they live in rural communities. They're farmers themselves, so they understand how this hits home. Real close to home. But we've got more to discuss. Okay, it's time for a quick break. But when we return, more on Nationwide's advocacy efforts and their partnership with FarmHER over the years. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Kirbe Schnoor, and FarmHER is partnering with Nationwide to discuss livestock safety. As women in agriculture, we know our families and animals depend on us. Remember to keep your handling areas clear of debris and avoid working alone with livestock. Provide shelter and extra feed during extreme weather and have an emergency plan in place. Visit Nationwide's Ag Insight Center for more resources. So let's lead the way in livestock safety.
Discover the nation's leading radio station devoted to agriculture and set your Sirius XM favorites to Rural Radio Channel 147. Weekdays 6 to 6. Listen to industry experts on U.S. and global issues that impact your farming or ranching operation. Rural Radio Channel 147 is your premier agribusiness station. Go to ruralradio147.com to see our full schedule and start listening to Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM and the Sirius XM app.
So much at stake here at the National Finals Rodeo. It's crazy, isn't it, how this is all folding out to what is always the most historic and biggest rodeo night of the entire year. Man, oh man, that horse is getting it on. I mean, it is everything. She's got a chance. There you go. Oh, that's a new best time of this year's NFR. You're about to see the best in pro rodeo at the forefront right here on the Cowboy Channel and on RFD-TV.
When it's your equipment for sale, you want qualified bidders and a seamless experience. Tractor Tuesday. You don't need a middleman with another auction. Now you can be your own auctioneer. No commissions with only a 2% buyer's premium. 2%? You tried their old way. Now sell it your way. 2%. Tractor Tuesday. A better way to buy and sell is here. TractorTuesday.com. 2%.
Welcome back to Rural America Live. All night we've been highlighting all things farm and ranch safety with our friends from Nationwide, but their advocacy efforts don't end there. Nationwide is dedicated to education and honoring ag educators across the country, if I could get that out. But yes, you guys are, because I have been able to partake in some of those interviews, and it's been so fun. So let's get right into that. Krista, you've mentioned several times the partnerships are a key thing to everything you guys do, and a big element is advocacy for Nationwide and your success. So we've been able to work together, FarmHER with RFD-TV. It's been so fun. Go into that relationship and partnership a little bit more, because it started way before I came on the scene.
It did. So actually back in 2015, we were just getting our internal Women in Ag group started at Nationwide, and I have the honor of leading that group. And one of our associates stumbled across somebody who was literally in our backyard, Margie Geiler-Alanese, and she had started FarmHER. And it was all about shining a light on women in agriculture. And so we asked her if she would mind coming and speaking at Nationwide. So she did. Brought some merchandise with her. Everyone fell in love with the merchandise.
Yeah.
And we had associates for several years helping with the exhibit out at the Iowa State Fair. And just people really got on board with it. They really wanted to be a part of this. And then Nationwide was also one of the first sponsors of the show when RFD picked up the show. So that was a lot of fun. And they did a lot of other things, too, with the grow events. So we went around, I believe it was to 21 different ag colleges.
Wow.
And they were events for the young women who were in the ag programs. And I was at all but one of those. It's a great opportunity to really get out there and just see the passion in all of these young people who are going to be our future leaders.
Yep.
And it was really very rewarding on our end to help sponsor that and to be a part of the journey with FarmHER. So fast forward to the change in ownership and RFD now, and with Raquel and everyone. And really, we've been able to establish so much with the Everybody Eats landing page. And what that does is it has a lot of different programs on there that FarmHER helps us get out there. We know the social prowess that FarmHER has and the following that FarmHER and RanchHER have. So we love that we partner with you all on that. You got to take part in the Iowa State Fair Chopped competition.
Did. That was fun.
It was
a good time.
Fun. It's amazing how fierce that competition is at the state fair level. But that one is really cool because it's all about putting together items that you would commonly find at a food bank. So the Food Bank of Iowa is the beneficiary of that particular one. But again, another great cause that FarmHER has been along with since we started it about 4 years ago. And then, again, the South Dakota entrapment video with our FFA member. She was awesome, and to help her dream come true of doing one of those rescues. So we thank you for that. And we just had our 2025 planning meeting, and so we're super excited about that as well. We couldn't be more thankful for the partnership, and it goes beyond the business walls. It's really both of us helping each other on the journey, and really I look at it as we've become a big family, and that's so important in the ag world, and we love every minute of it.
I can say firsthand that I had a great time with you guys at the Iowa State Fair, from the cooking competition, the chop competition, to just hanging out and getting to know the Nationwide team a little bit more. That was so much fun. And obviously the grain bin safety, your guys' involvement with the industry and so many different avenues is inspiring, but educational and purposeful. And again, mutual agreement on loving this partnership, because it is just so much fun, and it's inspiring. I also recently attended the National FFA Convention, and I got to speak with so many unsung heroes, I would like to call them, these ag teachers that are leading this next generation to be who they are, destined to be, and really take our industry to the next level. You guys have created the Golden Owl Award, and what you guys do with that is truly amazing. I want to give you so many kudos to that, and they'll cut me off if I talk too long. But like I said, talk about that a little bit more, the purpose behind the Golden Owl Award, why you felt it was so important to recognize these ag teachers and educators, called them unsung heroes, and really just like the meaning behind this program and how it got started.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm so glad you took time at convention to talk to some of our honorees. I know they really love talking to you. So again, thanks for extending our partnership in that way. So I get really excited about Golden Owl Award. It's one of my favorite things that I get to work on at Nationwide. And
you were an FFA.
I get to see a lot of the blue jackets running around. So 7 years ago, again, Nationwide Agribusiness, they really started to realize that these ag teachers, they give so much inside and outside of the classroom, so much of their time, so much of their dedication to these students. And how can we give back to them and elevate them and acknowledge them and make them feel special, because they very much are. So we started the Golden Owl Award, and we started in 2 states, and the public could nominate their favorite ag teacher of the year. We started in Ohio and Iowa. So again, just community nominations. We ended up with finalists in each state, and then each state would announce their ag teacher of the year award. We have grown to 13 states over the 7 years. So we add a few each year, kind of slow and steady growth. But I think that you kind of see with the big checks, the fun presentations, who doesn't like getting a big jumbo check, But we lift them up, but we also give each finalist $500, and then the winner gets an additional $3,000 and the coveted Ag Educator of the Year trophy, which is super cool. But it's giving them money back to use in their FFA programs as well.
Which is super important to them. And I know we'll see a video a little bit later of some of the interviews that I did. But I'm got to tell you, they were really moving. I mean, some of the gentlemen got teary-eyed, and it wasn't just because of what you guys are giving them. It's just the recognition. It's what people in the community would say about them after receiving this, and what their students would say. I mean, they just felt like, wow, full circle moment. This is why I do what I do, and I think that was so awesome. Krista, why is this award so important to Nationwide?
Well, a lot of people don't realize this, but Nationwide was actually founded nearly 100 years ago by the Ohio Farm Bureau. So our roots are in agriculture. And as we know, the ag community is always giving, and we want to be able to give back. We also know that the average age of the farmer is 57 years old. So we need to keep regenerating the future generations to get into the production side, as well as all of the other ag careers that are out there. And we know that there is estimated to be around 200 to 400 teachers in shortage for ag education.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot. That can affect about 10,000 students. And those are 10,000 students that may not have ever thought about going into ag, but if they have that right teacher there, it can get them influenced to join. So that's why it allows us to extend our support to the ag community and to these amazing teachers. And teachers in general devote countless hours and resources. Shonda referred to that earlier. But this is just one more way that we can proudly stand behind our ag educators. We know it's all about them and moving us forward. And we feel this program is particularly important for the future of ag.
Yeah. Shonda, Krista, you guys, the Golden Owl Award is so moving, like I said, and it's recognizing people who do so much, these educators. And there's so many students who say they want to be an ag educator because of their teachers, right? What do you feel the impact has been on the ag community because of this award that you guys have implemented?
Well, I'll mention financially again with the awards for the finalists and the winners. We've given out nearly $500,000, and that's through the 6 years. We're completing our 7th year of nominations right now. So, you know, an investment back into the teachers and into the programs. And then in addition, the 13 state FFAs that we do work with, we donate $5,000 to their state FFAs each year.
Yeah, and that's a huge contribution. I think, Krista, you mentioned too, Shonda, you both are in agreement to this, that it just really helps these programs. It helps, you know, the teachers be recognized. But again, the $5,000 back into their programs is so substantial. I think we are going to see some of the interviews I did. So let's take a look at those real quick. Another wonderful advisor with me now receiving Nationwide's Golden Owl Award. What a great honor and recognition for you, all your dedication over the years to agriculture and the young individuals a part of it. Go into that and what it meant to receive the award.
Yes, I was very honored to be selected as Ohio's Golden Owl recipient. This is my 31st year of teaching, and so it was a complete honor to be selected and recognized for my work over the years. So yeah, definitely thank you to all the sponsors and everybody that helped make it possible.
Yeah, 31 years in the sector of education, I should say, and agriculture. Can you go into that and the changes you've seen over the years and kind of maybe the hardships that you've seen teachers face as well as students?
Yeah, so I started 31 years ago. It's all been at Versailles High School. And so when I first started teaching, there was I'm part of like District 5, is how we break the state of Ohio. There's 10 districts. So when I first started teaching, there was like about 3 or 4 females. No females in my county. And so that probably was kind of one of my first challenges. I can remember, several parents questioning me when I first arrived about my success and being a female and teaching, and that time it was a very male dominated sort of career. And so that was definitely kind of an early challenge that I kind of had to go through, definitely. But it's been an extremely rewarding career. I've definitely seen a lot of changes, within the agricultural industry and within students kind of in general. But, part of being a teacher is to embrace those situations and embrace your students and learn from them and learn from the industry and, adapt to all the changes that have taken place. So it's been very rewarding and very great. And it's, I think that was probably my first challenge was the early on of being a female and a male dominated and in a kind of an area where there was, the female definitely wasn't as involved like in agriculture education or teaching, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, most definitely. There's a lot of great partners, like I said, like Nationwide, and the National FFA organization does a great job of providing tools for teachers and students to be successful. Can you touch on that a little bit more and kind of what FFA means to you?
Well, I was extremely involved in FFA in high school. So I grew up in Eastern Ohio, actually had the opportunity in 1988, 89 to be a state FFA officer, and then was the state FFA president for Ohio. In 1989-90, I actually ran for a national officer back in the early 90s, wasn't selected. That's fine. So it really kind of, honestly, because when I was in high school, I thought maybe I wanted to return back to the family farm. And so my role as in FFA kind of is what led me to this particular career and having the opportunity to, impact students' lives and those sort of things. So yeah, there's been, over the years, I've been, very involved in the Ag Teachers Association, at the Ohio level and the national level. And so, yeah, in National FFA and all the different partners, they're there for us and providing us with all kinds of resources and tools and speakers and information to help make us better and help propel our students for the future.
Oh, that's so great. It's so wonderful to see that, and it's so uplifting, and we are so glad to be a part of that. So again, we are a protection company. That's what we are here for. We are protecting those who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. And as we were formed nearly 100 years ago, our roots are in ag, like I mentioned earlier. And Shonda and I felt like this next clip really highlights probably just how important that is to not only Nationwide, but all of the associates that work there.
Absolutely. Let's take a look.
Agents of change, challengers of the status quo, futurists. We're talking about farmers, ranchers, and the businesses that serve them. Because no industry embraces progress more fully than agriculture. From man to mule, from steam to diesel, from soil smart to satellite savvy, this business is about adapting. It demands a protector just as forward-minded. It demands Nationwide. As the nation's #1 insurer of farms and farm families, Nationwide has long been a reliable resource for rural America. For nearly 100 years, we've been anticipating and mitigating the fact-of-life liabilities of agriculture. And while the current surge of data, technology, and globalization promises incredible growth potential, each new opportunity is shadowed by rising threats like security breaches, GMO contamination, and supply chain failures. That's why even as we confront today's liabilities, Nationwide is looking ahead to the risks not yet imagined. How do we ready the ag industry? The Nationwide Ag Insight Center, created to provide a steady stream of intel to our farm-certified agents and farmers alike, the Ag Insight Center never sleeps, just like agriculture itself. Clearly, no insurer knows the risks of today's agriculture like Nationwide, or is better prepared to protect it against what's next.
What a wonderful video. Okay, ladies, we have only a few minutes left in the show. Do you have any final thoughts for our viewers that are tuning in tonight?
I guess I would just like to say thank you. It has been fun to share the exciting initiatives that we have ongoing with so many great partners. And we really always want people to head to our resources that we have for them. It's not just for our policyholders, it's for anyone out there. And we are committed to not only the ag industry, but we are committed to the next generation of ag leaders, and that's super exciting for us to do as well.
Yeah, most definitely. What about you, Shonda?
Yeah, no, well said. Thank you so much for having us. It's been really fun and great to meet you. So I guess I'll just plug a few of the websites. Sure. So we talked a lot about Golden Owl here at the end, heard that fabulous interview with our Ohio winner. If you want to learn more about the program or nominate a teacher, find out if it's in your state, go to goldenowlaward.com. So that's goldenowlaward.com. Also, everything else that we talked about, a lot of our thought leadership, a lot of our programs, initiatives, you can find on aginsightcenter.com. Once again, it's right on the screen there, aginsightcenter.com. Chock full of great information. So take a look and see if you can find some valuable resources.
Yeah, I know you guys have other initiatives that you put forward as well, like Land as Your Legacy, a few others if you can mention.
Yeah, sure. So nationwide.com/yourland, you'll find information about our farm transition planning program. It's a no-cost program from our Nationwide financial side of the house, and they've helped over 1,500 families with with $7 billion in assets protecting that. So great program.
That's a lot.
So nationwide.com/yourland, very important resource to check out.
Again, you guys do so much for the rural communities and beyond. You guys are mothers. You understand whether you live in the suburban area, came from a rural community, or still in a rural community, you understand the importance of what Nationwide is doing. And that's what I know you want our viewers to take home as well. So again, I can't thank you ladies enough. This is a much better setting than being, buried in the grain bin. But thank you so much. So thank you all for joining us.